So what? April 1st to be exact. Philly Counts, the city's census outreach organization, is gearing up efforts to make sure vulnerable communities are not undercounted. WHYY's Emily Scott reports a leadership summit at South Philadelphia High School focused on how city residents can provide accurate information about the census to their neighbors.
Depending on which ethnic community you identify with, what makes participating in the census important might be different. Joe Lynn from the Pennsylvania statewide coalition Keystone Counts explained how during a panel at Saturday's 2020 Census Summit. Earlier this year, the organization, which brings together 90 nonprofits across the Commonwealth, tested census messages with over 260 people from the state's immigrant groups and communities of color. Lynn said it found that for Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, as well as African Americans and African immigrants, funding for community resources was crucial. But for the state's Latinx community, the ability to have their voices heard resonated more.
When people have the information, when they understand this is an opportunity to shape the resources and the representation that their community gets for the next 10 years, once folks really understand that piece, that helps us all surmount that barrier of fear.
During Saturday's summit, neighborhood leaders from across the city brainstormed ways to get these messages into their communities. Emily Scott, WHYY News.
In sports, Minnesota held on to beat Penn State 31-26 in college football. Other scores from yesterday: Villanova defeats Richmond 35-28, Penn over Cornell 21-20, and Temple over South Florida 17-7. In the NHL, Flyers earned the 3-2 victory over the Toronto Maple Leafs in a shootout. It's 9:06.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Warner Brothers Pictures, presenting The Good Liar, a suspense thriller about the secrets people keep and the lies they live. Starring Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen. The Good Liar, rated R, only in theaters Friday.
Weekend edition from NPR News. I'm Lulu Garcia-Navarro. Good morning. DACA goes to the Supreme Court this week. In the balance, the legal status of 700,000 people who grew up in America. Often called the Dreamers, they were brought to the U.S. illegally as children. They signed up for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program after President Obama put it in place 7 years ago. DACA deferred their deportation and allowed them to get Social Security cards so they could work. President Trump tried to shut the program down after he took office, but he was blocked by the lower courts. NPR legal affairs correspondent Nina Totenberg has the story of one of those DACA recipients.
Mitchell Santos came to the U.S. from Mexico when he was 2. His father and mother came with temporary visas and brought Mitch and his older sister. They never left. Soon Mitch had 2 more siblings born in the U.S. who were American citizens. Mitch's father managed to support the family doing manual labor under the table.
He would tell us time and time again, your priority here is to study. Your priority is to do the best you can academically.
Mitch doesn't remember an aha moment, a realization that he and his family were undocumented.
You start going through these milestones of adolescence, like applying for a driver's license. And then I realized, oh wait, I can't do that.
He couldn't even accept a scholarship from a private school. He watched his older sister, an academic star, unable to go to college. But even that didn't stop his ambition.
I grew up like any other American kid, right? You get these images of these colleges thrown at you. I was exposed to images of UC Berkeley, #1, state school in California. And even though after my parents let me know this is going to be really tough for you, I still wanted to try.
And he got into UC Berkeley. But like his sister, he couldn't figure out a way to pay the full freight, and in those days, undocumented students did not qualify for scholarships or loans. Eventually, his mother suggested an alternative. Why not take courses at the local community college, where tuition was more affordable and he could go part-time?
My schedule, almost on a daily basis, was wake up, take a morning class before work, go to work, and then drive back to school and then take a night class.
Much of this would not have been possible without DACA. Mitch concedes he was scared when he applied because it meant telling the U.S. government everything about himself and his family. But after not jumping at other opportunities out of fear that he would put his family in jeopardy,
I said, you know what, I gotta do this. Not only for myself, but realistically, I gotta help support my family.
as soon as he got his DACA status, he applied for a driver's license and for a social security number so he could work legally.
I remember getting my social security card in the mail, and I cried. I really cried. The doors of opportunity that little piece of paper allows, it's life-changing.
After 4 years part-time in community college, he transferred to Berkeley. In 2016, he graduated with highest honors, and he was selected as the class speaker in the legal studies department. Until then, his parents had never visited him on campus. They couldn't fly or drive because they're undocumented. So Mitch and his sister arranged to have them driven from LA to Berkeley in Northern California.
They actually didn't know that I was going to deliver that speech. And I remember them walking into the auditorium where the graduation was held and being ushered into the front row. And they assumed they were in trouble. And then they saw me on stage. It is an honor to speak in front of all of you this morning. But it is an indescribable honor to be addressing two particular people from this stage, my mother and father. And if I know my Latino parents, they're probably wondering if I'm in some kind of trouble right now.
His speech was a tribute to his education, to his life in America, and to his parents.
They managed to raise 4 children on a monthly budget of next to nothing in a country where they knew no one. We lived in a violence-ridden, graffiti-covered neighborhood in South Central Los Angeles. Yet they made it home, and it was beautiful.
At the end of his 9-minute speech, Mitch's composure finally faltered.
Mamá y papá, gracias por todo. You both mean more to me than you will ever know.
This spring, Mitch will be graduating from Harvard Law School, and if his DACA status is renewed, he has a job at a law firm afterwards.
I just want to remind everyone that this is much bigger than the dreamer narrative. This is about an entire group of people who are your friends, your neighbors, the people you least expect. And they're part of the American fabric. This is our home. We don't consider it home. This is our home.
Nina Totenberg, NPR News, Washington.
Starting this week, we enter a brand new phase of the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. Witnesses that have been testifying behind closed doors to House investigators will move out into the light, the TV lights to be exact. Public hearings begin on Wednesday, and Americans can tune in and hear and watch the drama unfold in real time. Or at least that's the idea. But not everyone will be watching in the same way. There's Twitter, there's Fox, there's late night, and on and on and on. To help us sort through it all, we're joined now by CNN's Brian Stelter, the host of Brian Sources, and their chief media correspondent. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much.
So essentially, we live in a world now where how we watch,
Americans. Going back to the 70s, going back to Nixon, yes, there were fringe beliefs that Nixon was being set up and that all this was a sham. But that was not a common view that was articulated every night on television. Of course, that is the view that will be articulated every night on television, on Hannity's show and on others. I think the other difference, this time versus past impeachments, is that this inquiry, these hearings will be clipped into dozens, hundreds of theory that was born a long time ago about Ukraine, the 2016 presidential election. And I think Newsroom's done a very good job of debunking that theory, but it still holds, of course, in the popular imagination on the right, it holds great value and great worth. It presses journalists into a relatively adversarial role to stand up for what is true, what is verifiable, in this environment where there is so much misinformation being spread.
And I guess that brings us to the question, what can the fact-based media do in its coverage to try and represent a true picture of what we're going to see? Is that even possible in this sort of fractured, politicized country?
I think the more we zoom out, the better. And I've been really impressed by the Washington Post and NPRs of the world for zooming out, reading thousands of pages of transcripts, and trying to zoom out to the big picture that we see from these transcripts by providing links to the primary source material, by providing backgrounders and explainers. I think we can help educate people on what's actually at stake here and what actually matters. Because the truth is, most people don't watch most of these hearings live. You know, maybe 20 million, maybe 30 million people will be listening and watching these hearings. People are going to consume these hearings in dozens of different ways. And for the fact-based media, hopefully we can put those basic facts front and center every day.
CNN's Brian Stelter, the host of Reliable Sources and their chief media correspondent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And tomorrow on Morning Edition, all the latest on impeachment, of course, but also new research into chronic pain and mind-body therapies. Could meditation, talk therapy, and hypnosis reduce someone's reliance on opioids? Listen tomorrow by asking your smart speaker to play NPR or your member station. Bye.